The old downtown hotel had always been quiet, its walls creaking with the weight of decades, but lately the lobby seemed colder, emptier, almost watchful at night. Emma, the new night front desk clerk, had taken the job for extra money, unaware that the building hid a secret far older than its faded carpet. On her first night, she noticed a line of old phones, some disconnected, one on the front desk constantly blinking as though expecting an incoming call. She ignored it at first, assuming it was a leftover from the building's older automated system, but the blinking grew more insistent as the hours passed. Around 2:03 a.m., the phone rang. Emma jumped, heart racing, and answered, expecting a prank call, but heard only a low, distorted whisper, repeating her name. She hung up, thinking it was a malfunction, but the ringing resumed almost immediately, louder and sharper, as if the room itself demanded attention. Emma asked the security guard if he had seen anything unusual, and he shrugged, muttering about the ghost room on the third floor no one entered. That room, 312, had been empty for years after a guest mysteriously disappeared without checkout, leaving only a faint smell of perfume and a single turned-off lamp. Curious, Emma tried looking at the CCTV footage of the hallway, but the cameras froze every time she approached 312, displaying only static and occasional blurred shadows. She began hearing soft noises near the phone, whispers she couldn't understand, almost like a conversation in a language she didn't recognize. At 3 a.m., the phone rang again, faster this time, like a frantic signal. Emma hesitated, then lifted the receiver, dreading what she might hear. The voice said, "We've been waiting." It was neither male nor female, just a monotone whisper echoing from some hollow place behind the walls. Emma stepped away from the desk, hands trembling, and the lights flickered. She noticed the shadow of someone standing at the end of the hallway. She squinted, but no one was there. Yet the air felt thick, and the faint sound of breathing brushed her ears from the empty corridor. Her curiosity overpowered fear. Emma went to the third floor, approaching room 312 slowly, each step echoing against the worn carpet and painted walls. The door appeared ordinary, but the lock was cold to the touch, as if the metal had absorbed decades of winter nights. She knocked softly. No answer. A sudden gust of air escaped from under the door, chilling her skin as if the room exhaled. Emma leaned closer to the peephole. Inside, she saw darkness. Not simple shadows, but a void that seemed to swallow the hallway light. Suddenly, a whisper came from inside the room. "Open it." The sound reverberated through her skull, more felt than heard. Emma stumbled back, nearly dropping her flashlight. The hallway lights flickered violently, then dimmed for a moment. The corridor was completely dark. When the lights returned, she saw faint writing etched into the door. "You know my name." She hadn't touched it. Back at the desk, the phone rang again. She didn't answer, but the line was dead silent, except for the faint sound of scratching. Security cameras showed nothing unusual, but the timestamps jumped erratically, freezing on frames of empty corridors with a single door slightly ajar. The next night, Emma arrived early. Her coworker warned her not to go near 312. "It doesn't like visitors," he said, voice tight. Emma ignored the warning, determined to understand what was happening. The phone rang at 2:59 a.m., exactly 1 minute before the previous night's first call. This time, the voice was louder. "You shouldn't be here." It came from the phone, the walls, and somewhere deep in her mind. Goosebumps rose on her arms. She turned slowly toward 312. The door creaked slightly, like it had moved on its own. Her hand touched the doorknob. It was ice cold, far colder than the rest of the metal fixtures in the hotel. She twisted the knob slightly, and the door swung open with a whispering groan, revealing the room bathed in unnatural darkness. Inside, the furniture was covered in dusty white sheets. Nothing appeared out of place, yet a faint glow pulsed from the far corner. Emma shone her flashlight toward the glow, revealing nothing, only shadows stretching impossibly long, defying the light's angle. A whisper echoed from the corner. "You can see me." The words floated, barely audible, yet penetrated every nerve in her body. She stepped forward cautiously. The floor felt soft underfoot, almost like stepping onto thick carpet, but the texture shifted strangely, like it wasn't solid. The door slammed shut behind her. Emma spun around, flashlight trembling. No wind, no draft, just silence, followed by faint breathing directly behind her. She turned slowly. No one was there, but the sheets on the bed shifted slightly, as if something beneath them moved. Emma noticed the phone from the desk had somehow appeared on the bedside table. It rang. She didn't pick it up. Whispering grew louder. "Answer me." The voice now carried emotion, urgent, angry, desperate, as though the room itself was alive. Emma felt a presence near her, brushing her arm, yet when she looked, the space beside her was empty. She ran to the door, trying the handle. It wouldn't budge. Panic rose in her chest, threatening to suffocate her. The glow from the corner expanded, forming a vague silhouette. Indistinct, shifting, like smoke with a human shape. The silhouette whispered, "You shouldn't leave." Its voice was layered, almost as if many voices spoke in unison. Emma slammed her body against the door. It finally gave way slightly, enough to squeeze through. She fell into the hallway, gasping. When she looked back, the door to 312 was closed. No scratches, no fingerprints. It looked untouched, ordinary. At the desk, the phone continued to ring. Emma knew if she didn't answer, the room might follow her. So she picked it up. The voice said, "You came back. You always come back." Her stomach turned. How could the room know she was still here? Lights flickered throughout the hotel. Shadows stretched down the hallway, yet no one was present. Cameras showed empty corridors and the constant, pulsing darkness around 3. Emma realized the room could manipulate the building itself. Doors, phones, lights. It wasn't just a room, it was alive. She tried calling her manager, but the line went dead. Static whispered through the receiver, "You can't leave." Her coworker ran past, pale, muttering about how he had almost checked that room decades ago and barely escaped. Emma felt drawn back toward 312. No footsteps, no force, yet every instinct told her to approach. Emma approached room 312 once more, her legs trembling, heart pounding so violently she could feel it in her throat. The dark hallway stretching endlessly before her like a living tunnel. She pressed her hand to the doorknob, cold and unyielding, and felt a strange pulse. Almost like the room itself was taking its own heartbeat directly into her palm. Whispering came from within, soft but insistent. "Come closer. You belong here." Emma froze, realizing the voice was now speaking directly into her mind, bypassing her ears entirely. With a shuddering breath, she pushed the door open, revealing the room glowing faintly, the shadows forming human shapes that swayed as if performing a silent, haunting dance in darkness. The sheets on the bed shifted violently, as if something beneath was trying to push through. Emma recoiled, feeling eyes watching her from angles that should have been impossible. On the desk, the hotel phone rang endlessly, its shrill tone echoing unnaturally, filling the entire room with a sound that vibrated her bones and made her stomach twist. Emma grabbed the receiver, only to hear dozens of voices whispering simultaneously. Her name, warnings, accusations, and pleas, all merging into a single, incomprehensible, bone-chilling cacophony. Panic seized her as the floor beneath her feet felt soft and wet, almost alive, each step sinking slightly, as though the room was trying to pull her in. The glowing corner expanded, forming a vague figure with distorted limbs and eyes that reflected her deepest fears. And it whispered, "You came back. You cannot leave." Emma ran toward the door, the shadows stretching and twisting to block her path, forming walls that weren't there a moment ago, like the room itself was closing in. She slammed her body against the door repeatedly, finally forcing it open just a crack, only to see the hallway stretching impossibly long, bending as though reality itself was warped. Behind her, the door swung shut on its own, the click of the lock echoing ominously, leaving her feeling trapped between the physical building and some otherworldly dimension. The hallway lights flickered violently, casting long, impossible shadows. And Emma realized the room's influence wasn't contained. It was leaking into the entire hotel, warping everything she saw. She felt the phone in her hand vibrate violently, even though it wasn't connected, and the voice whispered, "You cannot leave. You are already inside." Emma stumbled down the corridor, desperate for an exit, but every door she tried opened, only to reveal more darkness, more impossible space, and more whispers beckoning her to return. The air grew colder, each breath forming mist that seemed to swirl unnaturally, shaping into vague figures that reached for her with long, ghostly arms she couldn't avoid. Her flashlight flickered and died, leaving her in near total darkness. The shadows grew bolder, taking on humanoid shapes, advancing silently yet threateningly, as though testing her courage. One of the shadows detached itself from the wall and whispered her name, a perfect mimic of her own voice, making her doubt whether she was still herself or part of the room. Emma ran blindly, tripping over the warped carpet, scraping her hands and knees, the darkness around her pulsating like a heartbeat, almost mocking her fear and panic. She reached the elevator at the end of the hall, only to see the number panel displaying 312 instead of the lobby, the doors rattling as if breathing heavily. Trembling, she stepped inside the elevator. Pressing the lobby button, the doors closed slowly, and for a moment, the elevator felt infinite, moving not down but through darkness itself. The phone in her pocket rang. She hadn't brought it. Picking it up, she heard her own voice pleading, "Do not answer. You cannot leave." The elevator stopped abruptly. The doors opened to a floor that shouldn't exist, a corridor lined with dozens of room 312 doors, each glowing faintly with a pulse of life. Whispers surrounded her, layered with hundreds of voices, speaking in languages she couldn't understand, yet somehow felt compelled to obey, guiding her toward one particular door at the corridor's end. She stepped inside the door. The room was empty at first glance, but the walls were lined with photographs of herself, each image showing a terrified expression she didn't recognize. The shadows coalesced into humanoid figures, pointing and whispering, mimicking her movements. One advanced, reaching for her hand, while another seemed to pull at her reflection in the mirror. Emma tried to scream, but no sound came out. The walls seemed to stretch, folding in on her, like the room was trying to engulf her completely. She spun around, attempting to escape, only to find every door now led back to the same space, looping infinitely, forcing her deeper into the room's unending interior. On the desk, the phone rang again. She answered, hearing a voice she didn't recognize say, "You have entered. You are ours now." A cold gust swept through the room. Papers flew off the desk, swirling around her like miniature tornadoes, each carrying whispers of previous victims trapped within the room. The shadows solidified, forming hands that reached through the walls, pulling at her clothing, her hair, her very body, while the room's voice echoed from every surface simultaneously. She realized the room could manipulate gravity. She stumbled, almost falling upward as the ceiling became the floor and the walls stretched unnaturally. The photographs on the wall shifted, showing her being absorbed into the shadows, each image a potential future she might face if she failed to escape. Emma ran toward the glow in the corner, hoping it would lead to an exit, but it turned into a vortex of darkness, spinning and whispering her name endlessly. The elevator appeared again, doors opening into the infinite corridor of 312s. She jumped inside, desperate, as whispers screamed, "Do not leave, do not forget." Pressing every button, she tried to escape, but the elevator moved sideways, spiraling through impossible space, each stop revealing more doors to more 312s, all pulsing and alive. The phone rang one last time. She answered, hearing hundreds of voices, past clerks, guests, and shadows, all calling, all pleading, and all laughing simultaneously. The walls began closing in, twisting like they had memory, remembering every fear she had, every panic-stricken movement she made, feeding off her terror and hesitation. Emma screamed, finally breaking free mentally, forcing herself to focus on one door in the distance, ignoring all the whispers and shadows clawing at her psyche. She ran toward it, lungs burning, hands outstretched. The floor felt solid for the first time in hours. She could almost touch the handle. The handle turned, the door swung open, revealing the hotel lobby exactly as it had appeared that first night, calm and still, as if nothing had happened. Emma stumbled forward, collapsing against the desk. The phone was silent. The lights were steady. The lobby cameras showed only her, alone and exhausted. For a moment, relief washed over her. She thought the ordeal was over, that room 312 had released her, returning the hotel to normal. But then she noticed the front desk phone blinking softly. A single line of text appeared on the display. "Will always be waiting." Emma backed away slowly, heart hammering, realizing the room's influence could extend beyond its walls, touching the entire building and potentially following her wherever she went. She packed her things that night, quitting immediately, leaving her badge, flashlight, and desk keys behind, hoping that severing ties would break the connection. Walking out, she glanced back once. Through the glass doors, she swore she saw shadows gather at the corner where room 312 should be, swaying and whispering. At home, she unplugged her phone and television, covering windows, trying to avoid any signs of the room. Yet the whispering continued in her dreams, calling her name softly. Weeks later, she received an unmarked package. Inside, a hotel key labeled 312, cold and heavy, with a folded note that read, "You forgot to answer." Emma dropped it immediately, knowing some things were not meant to be understood or resisted. That room 312 would always answer back, waiting for its next guest.